Hello and welcome to another episode of Burning Questions. Hi Sholin, hi Alex, hi Diego.
Hey Mbali, thanks for having us.
Cool, let's get right into it. So today, guys, our code card is from Mr. Gary Kasparov. Very interesting surname. So the code card reads, the failures of capitalism are still better than the successes of socialism. Straight to the point. Let me start with you, Sholin. Maybe for someone at home who doesn't know what capitalism and socialism is, what exactly is that?
Yeah, thanks for the big toss, Mbali. So
I'm
capitalism. So capitalism, essentially, I don't even like the term capitalism, because it was created by socialists. At the end of the day, capitalism, in a much better term for it, is actually the free market. And what that
Yeah.
essentially is that you have the freedom as an individual, to buy and sell goods, to the best of your ability to the consumer. And in a capitalist free market economy, I feel like the consumer, he is the individual is the primary mechanism for to regulate that economy, because what people buy and sell depends on the need, essentially, of the society, of the community. And that's where people actually go to buy. If you have a product and it actually needs to be sold on the free market, that product will then succeed. And if it's not needed, it might fail. And we leave it open to that up to the consumer to make that decision. And as best and as far as possible, we want, and I mean, we all are believers in free markets. We want the government to be moved from actually being this big boss telling people what to buy, where to buy, and how to buy it. And socialism is essentially that thing. Socialism is a more centralized economy, where the government tells you how much you must get paid, where you can go buy it, when you can go buy it, and sets prices, essentially for products, which is usually it does not support the consumer or the individual at the end of the day, because they're telling you what you essentially need. Even if it's not what you do. And in the world, we've seen that free market economies always tend to exceed socialist, communist countries and economies in the world. A free market economy, I would give you an example, is the likes of the United Kingdom, the United States, many European countries like Switzerland, Germany, France. Those are free market economies. South Korea, Singapore, Botswana, right next to us, is a brilliant example of a free market economy. Where we see more socialist communist countries are the likes of Zimbabwe, Cuba, North Korea. These are countries that are struggling in the world right now because they are socialist economies. So we can see a clear picture of what works and what doesn't.
What doesn't. Yeah, that's true. Alex, maybe I'll come to you. Thanks for that, Sholin. You did perfectly there. See, I know you. Alex, where is South Africa? Are we capitalists? Are we socialists? Who are we exactly?
Yeah, it's such a good question, man. Because, essentially, we are a free market economy. We are a capitalist society. But we have very socialist policies from the government. So essentially, what they try to do is, like Sholin said, is where you centrally control stuff. So a very good example, and I've used it before because it's so blatantly clear, is like with the state of disaster under COVID-19, where the government wanted to say, okay, people, you are not allowed to buy open-toed shoes. You may not buy hot chicken, all that kind of stuff. It's where you have a central government making decisions on behalf of people. And so that's... it's very, when you put it in layman's terms, it's quite easy to see why someone would prefer to have autonomy over their own life than having their decision making outsourced to somebody who they don't know sitting in an office somewhere in Pretoria.
Bro, that is true. Mr. Diego, maybe I'll come to you before you go to comment. What are your thoughts on this code card?
Well, my thoughts on the code card is that My thoughts are that the code card is quite vague. It does not say what in particular we are looking at. Are we looking at economic failures, political failures, social failures? What type of failures really? But generally speaking, I would agree with the man since I am a capitalist myself, proudly so. But in a more realistic way, I think, yeah, we can't just make such general statements. We'd have to look at cases on based on their merits and judge from there. Yeah, it's quite a general statement to make.
But if I could just add to what Tiejo said, I think what's quite useful about Tiejo sort of zooming out a bit there is, I think Sholin's list of countries that are typically more socialist, more communist, relative to countries rather, that are more free market capitalist, is you can see how more successful those countries are. So I think just on whether, there's certain indexes, whether it's GDP per capita or whatever metric it is that you use, I think even just a vague sort of comparison in terms of GDP, those kind of stuff, you begin to get a bit of a taste. But there's certainly pros and cons to both.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, guys, let's go to the first comment. This one is from Mtunzi and it reads, I disagree. Capitalism has always interfered where there is socialism. After all, capitalists are very greedy to allow any other system to be tried. Diego, they say you're very greedy, sir. What do you think?
I wonder where this is coming from. I mean, we as capitalists believe in a society whereby everyone has the freedom to become whatever they would like to become. And I don't see how that is greed. I mean, we are one. We are the one people who really, really, really are for everyone. Would really love to see everyone excel, rather than a few people excelling and the rest of the people not doing well. Socialism, in a socialist system, for example, you have the politically connected and the political doing well in such a system, whereas ordinary citizens are not doing well. So we are the one people who want to see everyone do well, and so it's this is contrary to the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, I can I add on to what Diego just said? Like that was actually brilliant, because many times what we see even in countries that are more capitalist is that you can like in the United States or in South Africa or in Western countries more specifically, you get capitalists and socialists abundantly. Capitalism literally allows a free market, not only of economics, but of discussion and debate and competition. That's what capitalism is all about. However, when we go to socialist or even communist, the more extreme form of socialism, you see that debate and freedom is not usually welcomed in those countries. And that's the ironic part that I find about that, where capitalism tries to maximize freedom. Socialism tries to take away as much freedom as possible and to remove that free debate, that free speech, where we can actually disagree with one another.
Yeah, that is actually true. Let's go to our second comment. These comments are fairly kind of similar, and I feel like the people commenting on our social media are very socialist, unfortunately. So this one is from Bliss. I'll use the second name. This one says, nearly all socialist systems were crushed by greedy capitalism, so we'll never know. Alex, I'll give that one to you.
No, I think the thing is, in the early 1990s, there was obviously the falling of the Berlin Wall, and that was the end of the Soviet Union, which was a very socialist system, or society rather, and that was replaced by free market policies, free market economies, free market government. So I think that's the thing. Is for me, when you speak about capitalism, as Sheldon said, to rather think about it as the free market. Market is just a synonym for choice, free choice versus sort of central choice. So I don't think it's more just a thing of that people. Yes, you do get greedy capitalists because people have ambitions, and people are flawed and want not necessarily do want to get themselves ahead of others. But ultimately, when you have a society where people build wealth, where people create and add value, and people are rewarded for the value that they add, it benefits the whole of society. Like we're speaking about in Freedom Fanatics, where, if everyone is doing well, then there's more money to go around. There's more money to be spent on, like in schools, you don't just have to provide an education. You can also provide extracurricular activities. You can build more jungle gyms. You can build more boxing facilities for people in rural areas. So I don't think it is not an active thing that people try to eliminate socialist society. It's just that ultimately better ideas win. No matter how long it takes. At the moment, what are we, 27 years into democracy, but with very socialist policies, I think we're going to see that it will probably be the fall of the ANC, and with them will go their socialist policies. So I don't think it's a deliberate act. I think people choose for ideas that work.
Mbali. Was just going to say that, socialism is a setup for failure. That's all I was going to say.
Words, definitely.
I was going to make a comment as well that I don't think capitalism and greed dealt with socialism, blah, 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 blah. The reality of the matter is that socialism has never existed and socialism will never exist. It's really all an ideology created by Karl Marx. It's all in the mind. It's not there in practice. It's not there at the practical level. It has never existed. Whereas with the free market foundation, with the free market economy, that's something that already exists. It comes naturally in society. The only thing is that government comes and tries to intervene in what's natural, right? Socialism is not a natural idea. It's something that someone said, Karl Marx sat down, thought of society, how a perfect society would look like. But unfortunately, in the real world, there's no such thing as a perfect world. And that's why socialism will never pass. It's nothing natural and it has never existed.
I kind of agree with what Diego actually says there. I have to be honest, because what we actually see is the reason for socialism's failure is that because it tries to control so many people and create this utopia where government is God, humans have this natural instinct for freedom. That's what we all want. We all want to be able to be decision makers of our own lives. And because we have this innate struggle that whenever we feel any sort of oppression by this higher authority that is trying to control our lives, we have this innate feeling to push back and actually fight for that freedom. And that's why socialist governments always tend to fall. And we see this in Zimbabwe with Robert Mugabe. We are going to see this with the ANC. We've seen it with the Soviet Union, that they are just not able to last because the people eventually realize that, our freedoms are being taken away from us.
Definitely. Alex, any last words? And then we'll go to you, Diego.
No, I'll hand over to Diego. He looks like he's got a pearl of wisdom to share.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say that, I just wanted to explain the point that socialism has never existed before, right? Point to me one country whereby you have had everyone from the president to the cleaner to the medical doctors being equal. We have never had such a situation before. But with the free market, we have had situations whereby someone with their natural skill, they are able to turn into this and that. Out of working hard, they're able to turn into 3, 4, 5, 6. That's something that exists. Now, socialism doesn't exist. It's all in the mind. That's what it is, really. And that's my essential point, sure.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, you heard it first here from Fan. Socialism doesn't exist. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Burning Questions. Do remember, your freedom is worth fighting for.